You have never experienced the real world, not once, not for a single second of your entire life. The room you're in right now, the weight of your own body, the face of the person you love, the color of the sky you'd swear you know by heart, none of it reaches you the way it actually is. Every bit of it is filtered, edited, and rebuilt inside your skull, in the dark, before you ever get to feel it. And I can prove it to you. Starting with the one thing you'd bet your life on. You are not touching anything right now. You never have, and neither has anyone who has ever lived. I'll show you why in about a minute, and once I do, you will not be able to unknow it. Because if you've never touched anything, then the solid world you're lying in tonight is not what it appears to be, and neither is the light, or the color, or the sound, or the face beside you. Every one of them is a kind of controlled illusion, built inside your skull, out of almost nothing at all. You have 5 senses. You've been told your whole life that they are your windows onto the world, 5 clean panes of glass through which reality pours in. That is not what they are. They are not windows. They are filters. Narrow, aggressive, ruthless filters, throwing away almost everything, keeping a sliver, and then, this is the part that should unsettle you, dressing that sliver up as the whole world, so convincingly that you have never once doubted it, until, maybe, right now. So here is the question this whole night is built around, and I want you to actually feel the weight of it before we start. If your senses are a filter, if they delete most of what's there and invent a lot of what isn't, then there is a real world on the other side of that filter. A world that was here before you, opened your eyes and will be here after you close them for the last time. And it looks nothing like the one you're in. What does it look like? What is actually out there when the filter comes off? That's where we're going tonight. Not into mysticism. I'm not going to tell you reality is a hologram, or that you create it with your mind, or any of the comfortable nonsense that fills this corner of the internet. I'm going to do something stranger, and I think more beautiful. I'm going to walk you out, step by step, from the warm little world your senses built, through the skin, past the eyes, out through the colours you can't see and the sounds you can't hear, into the reality other animals live in that would break your mind. And then down, all the way down, to the layer underneath everything, the one your senses were built more than anything else to hide from you, the quantum layer, the place where solidity dissolves, where the objects vanish, where touching stops meaning anything at all. And when we get to the bottom, I'll bring you back up, because there's a twist waiting down there. And it's not the one you're bracing for. The filter is not your prison. By the end of tonight, I want you to see what it actually is. And it's the most human thing about you. You can close your eyes for this. You don't need them. That's sort of the point. So let me make good on that promise, the one I opened with, because it's the doorway to everything else. You've never touched anything. Here's why. Press a fingertip against the nearest surface, the wall, the mattress, the screen. Push a little. Feels like contact, doesn't it? Fingertip, surface, meeting. The most obvious thing in the world. It isn't. Zoom in, really in, down past what any eye could see, and something strange is happening at that boundary. Your fingertip never touches the surface. Not the atoms of your finger against the atoms of the thing. They get close, terrifyingly close, by everyday standards, but they never make contact, because they can't. Every atom is wrapped in a haze of electrons, negative charge, and the surface is wrapped in the same, and like charges, repel. As your fingertip approaches the desk, the electrons in your skin and the electrons in the wood push against each other, harder and harder. And that push, that electromagnetic refusal, that force holding 2 clouds of charge, a hair apart, is what you feel as solid. That's the pressure. That's the touch. You are not feeling wood. You have never felt wood. You are feeling the force that stops you from ever reaching it. And the gap is not small on the scale where it matters. Down at the size of atoms, your electrons and the desks are held apart by a distance that is, in atomic terms, enormous. A canyon compared to the size of the things not touching across it. You have gone your whole life believing touch is the most direct contact there is, the realest proof that something is there, and it's the opposite. Touch is the sensation of being kept away. Every embrace, every handshake, every time you've held someone's hand, two clouds of charge came close and refused each other, and the warmth and pressure you felt as closeness was the feeling of a barrier that never once let you across. You have never touched another person. No one ever has. The closest you have ever come to anyone is a hair's breadth of electromagnetic force, held open forever, and your brain took that unbridgeable gap and gave you the feeling of holding someone, that the filter can turn permanent separation into the sensation of a warm hand in yours, might be the kindest thing it does all day. Sit with how odd that is. The most concrete, undeniable sensation you have, solid contact, the floor under your feet. The chair holding you up right now is not contact at all. It's repulsion, dressed up as contact. Every time you've ever touched anything, or anyone, you were held a fraction away, and your brain erased the gap and reported, solid, meeting, here. And even the feeling itself arrives late and thin. When you press your finger to the desk, the sensation you experience as now is already old news. The nerve signal has to crawl up your arm and into your brain before you feel a thing. And your brain then stitches the delay out of the story so it feels instant. Touch someone's shoulder and their foot at the same moment, and the two signals reach your brain at slightly different times, different distances to travel, yet your brain silently edits them into a single simultaneous now, so the world feels seamless. You are never feeling the present. You are feeling a smoothed over, slightly delayed reconstruction of it, assembled so well you'd swear it was live. Even your own touch is a broadcast on tape delay, and you have never once caught the edit. And that's before we even get to what the thing you're touching is actually made of. We'll get there. That's the deepest layer we reach tonight, and it's a long way down. But start here, at the fingertip, because it sets the pattern for everything that follows. At every level, from your skin to the edge of physics, the story is the same. Your senses take something strange and slippery and unbearable to live inside, and they hand you back something simple and solid and usably false. That's their whole job, not to show you the world, to protect you from it. Look up for a second, at whatever's in front of you, the room, the window, the ceiling. Feels like you're seeing the world, doesn't it? All of it, laid out plainly in front of you. Hold that feeling, because it's about to fall apart. You think you see the world, you see almost none of it. Light is a wave of electromagnetic energy, and it comes in a fantastic range of wavelengths, a spectrum that runs from waves longer than a building to waves smaller than an atom. Your eyes respond to a slice of that spectrum, one slice, and it is absurdly, almost insultingly narrow. If you laid the entire electromagnetic spectrum out as a line stretching from one side of a city to the other, the part your eyes can see would be a band narrower than your finger. Everything you have ever seen, every face, every sunset, every colour that ever moved you, lives inside that one finger width. The rest of the city is going on all around you, blazing with information, and you are blind to all of it. and narrow undersells it. If you compare the whole known range of light, from the longest radio waves to the shortest gamma rays, the sliver your eyes can catch is not 1%, not 1,000th. It's a fraction so small it's hard to write down without the number losing all meaning. Imagine a piano with keys stretching for thousands of miles. Every key a different wavelength of light. You can hear a single octave. 1. Everything you have ever seen. All of visual reality. Every colour in every painting and every eye you've ever looked into is played on that one octave, on a keyboard that runs past the horizon in both directions, silent to you the whole way, and the music never stops on those other keys. It's playing right now, the whole vast instrument, all of it, everywhere, and you are built to hear a single stretch of it and to call that stretch light. Right now, in the room with you, there is radio, there is infrared, the warmth of your own body is pouring off you as light you cannot see. If someone is holding a phone, there is a quiet storm of microwave and radio signal passing through the air and through you. Ultraviolet is streaming from any window the daylight touches. The room is drenched in electromagnetic radiation, flooded with it, and your eyes register a single thin ribbon and call it seeing. You are standing in a symphony and hearing one note, and it's worse or stranger than a matter of range. Consider what your eyes are actually doing even inside their tiny band. Light floods into your eye by the trillions of particles a second, and at the back of the eye sit cells that each catch a few of them and fire off a nerve signal. That's the raw material, a storm of electrical pulses racing up the optic nerve toward the back of your skull. And here is the thing people almost never stop to feel. It is dark inside your head, pitch dark. Your brain has never seen light, not once, not ever. It sits sealed in bone, in total blackness, receiving nothing but pulses of electricity. And out of that lightless traffic of signals, it builds the blazing, sunlit, full-colour world you are looking at right now. The brightest thing you have ever seen. The sun, a snowfield, a lit screen, was assembled in absolute darkness by an organ that has never once been touched by a photon. The light is not in your head. The light was never in your head. There is only the dark and the electricity and the world your brain paints from it. And even that one note, you don't receive it. You construct it. Here, try this. Find something coloured near you right now. Anything. A book, a wall, the glow of the screen. Fix on its colour for a moment. Now hold on to something that sounds impossible. That colour is not out there. It is not on the object. It never was. Colour is the clearest example, and I'll be quick because it's almost too much on its own. Out in the world there is no colour. There are only wavelengths of light. Different lengths. Nothing more. Red is not a property of a rose. Red is what your brain manufactures when a certain wavelength hits the back of your eye. The wavelength is real, out there. The redness is a private event. In here, painted onto the wavelength by you, existing nowhere in the physical world. A rose in an empty room is not red. It is a shape that reflects a certain length of wave. The red switch is on only when there's a mind to switch it on. Every colour you have ever seen has been an invention of your own head, a label your brain assigns, and it has never once existed in the thing you are looking at. And here's the part that should truly unsettle you, if you let it. You have no way to know that your red is anyone else's red. Not their word for it, the actual felt experience, the inner glow of it. When you and a friend look at the same rose, you both say, red. You both point to the same crayon. You agree perfectly, and yet there is no test, none, that can reach inside and check whether the private colour lighting up in your head is the same private colour lighting up in theirs. Maybe what you feel as red, they feel as your green, and neither of you would ever know, because you'd both still call the rose red and stop at the same lights. The one thing you are most certain you share with every other human, the look of the world, is the one thing you can never actually confirm you share at all. Every person you love is seeing a private show you will never be allowed to watch, and they've been sitting right next to you the whole time. Hold that, because it's the template for all of it. The wavelength is the world, the colour is the filter, and the colour is all you get. It runs the same way through every sense, so I'll move quickly, you can feel coming. Sound. Out in the world there is no sound, either. There are pressure waves, air molecules bunching and spreading, a physical ripple moving through a medium. That's all that's really there. Your ear catches a slice of those ripples, again, a slice, a limited band of frequencies, and your brain converts them into the private experience of sound. The bark, the music, the voice you love, none of those exist in the air. The air just has moving pressure. The sound is built inside you, and your slice is narrow. There are pressure waves too low for you to hear, rolling through the ground under earthquakes, and waves too high for you, shrieking past you all day from creatures and machines, and you sit in silence in the middle of all of it, hearing your one band and calling it everything there is to hear. And think about what that means for silence itself. When you sit in a silent room, the room is not silent. It is full of pressure waves, the low rumble of traffic your ears round down to nothing, the ultrasonic chatter of electronics, the infrasound of the building breathing, the air itself in constant motion. Silence is not the absence of sound in the world. Silence is a threshold in you, the level below which your particular ear stops reporting. A dog, a mouse, an elephant would each call your silent room by a different name, because each draws the line in a different place. The quiet you rest in, at the end of the day, is not out there. It's a gift your own limits give you, the world turned down to a volume a human can bear, so you can finally hear yourself think. Smell and taste are almost embarrassingly obvious once you see the pattern. There is no smell in a rose or a fire or bread. There are molecules, specific shapes of matter drifting through the air. Your nose is a shape detector. It catches some of those molecules, and your brain converts the shapes into the experience of scent. The smell of rain is not in the rain. It's a shape of molecule, translated by you into a feeling. Taste is the same trick on the tongue. Chemistry converted into pleasure or disgust. There is no sweet in sugar. There is a molecule, and a brain that decided that molecule means good. Keep eating. Try a small proof on yourself tonight. Almost everything you think you taste, you actually smell. Your tongue is crude. It reports basically 5 things: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and savory. That's the whole vocabulary of taste. Everything else, the difference between an apple and a pear, coffee and chocolate, the entire rich world of flavor, is your nose, catching molecules that drift up the back of your throat while you chew. Pinch your nose shut and eat something, and it goes flat, nearly flavorless, a vague sweet or sour smudge. Let go, and the flavor floods back in an instant. The taste was in your nose the whole time, which means the most intimate pleasure you have, eating the food you love, is largely a smell you've been crediting to your tongue your whole life. Another quiet swap the filter made without telling you. And even that narrow tongue is a survival machine, not a truth machine. Bitter tastes bad to you, not because bitterness is bad, but because many poisons are bitter, and the ancestors who spat them out lived. Sweet tastes good because sugar was rare, precious energy. Your tongue isn't reporting what food is. It's reporting what food meant to a hungry animal on a dangerous planet. Good, eat. Bad, spit. A verdict, dressed up as a flavor. Notice what's happened. In 4 senses now, the story is identical. The world offers something physical and neutral. Wavelengths, pressure, molecules, force. Your senses grab a fragment of it and translate the fragment into something that feels rich and immediate and real. Color, sound, smell, solidity. But that exists only inside you. You are not living in the world. You are living in a translation of a fragment of the world. A beautiful, vivid, wall-to-wall translation. With no subtitles, no seam, no hint that it's a translation at all. Which is exactly why almost nobody ever notices. And 5 senses was always a lie of its own, by the way, a tidy children's book number that isn't even close. Close your eyes and touch your own nose. You found it instantly, in the dark, with no sight and nothing touching your finger until it arrived. How? A sense you were never taught to count. Proprioception, your body's constant private map of where all its parts are, running silently every second. The thing that lets you walk without watching your feet. That's a sense. Now feel your own heartbeat, your breath, the fullness or hunger in your gut, the temperature under your skin, a whole channel called interoception. Your perception of your own insides, the quiet stream of signals that becomes the feeling of being you. That's a sense too. And balance, the fluid tilting in your inner ear that tells you which way is down. Scientists who actually count them land not on 5, but on something more like a dozen, or 20, or more, depending how you split them. You were handed the number 5 as a child and never questioned it, and even your inventory of your own senses turned out to be a simplified cartoon. The filtering goes all the way down, even into how you understand the filtering. Still, the pattern holds across all of them, the counted and the forgotten. And there's a reason this is so hard to feel, even as I'm telling you it. The filter shows you no edges. When a camera fails, you see the failure, the blur, the noise, the black frame. When your senses fail, you see nothing missing, because they don't leave gaps, they fill them. You have a literal blind spot in each eye, a hole in your vision where the nerve leaves the eyeball, with no light detectors at all, and you have never once seen it, because your brain paints over it with a best guess, seamlessly, all day, every day. It invents the missing piece and shows you a smooth wall of vision with no hole in it. That is the filter's signature move, and it does it everywhere. It doesn't show you a partial world with honest gaps. It shows you a complete world that is mostly invention, and it hides the invention perfectly. So you are never going to notice from the inside. That's not a failure of attention, it's the design. A filter that advertised itself as a filter would be a bad filter. The whole value of it is that it feels like the world. And there's a deeper reason it stays hidden, one worth naming before we go outside it. You can't miss what you've never had a name for. Try, right now, to imagine a brand new colour, not a blend of ones you know, not a darker or lighter version, but a wholly new colour, the way ultraviolet is a real colour to a bird. You can't. Your mind slides right off it. There's no slot for it, no handle, nothing to grip. The missing colours don't feel like a gap in your vision, because a gap is something you can point at, and you cannot even point at these. They leave no hole, no ache, no sense of absence. That's the deepest reason the filter is invisible. It doesn't just hide the world, it hides the very shape of what's hidden, so that the edges of your reality feel not like edges, but like the natural, obvious, complete boundary of everything that could possibly exist. The tick doesn't feel trapped in three signals. It feels like it's living in the whole world. So do you. That feeling, this is all there is not information about the world. It's the sound the filter makes when it's working, which means the only way to see the filter is from the outside, to step around it using something that isn't a sense. And we have exactly one tool that does that. Not meditation, not a substance, not belief, instruments, measurement, physics. The long human project of building machines that detect what our bodies can't, and doing math on what our minds can't picture. That's the only door out of the translation. And once you walk through it, the world on the other side gets very strange, very fast. Because so far I've only shown you the filter thinning things down, a slice of light, a slice of sound. That's the gentle part. Now I want to show you what it's thinning things down from. I want to take you outside your own senses and show you how much is actually there. And the fastest way to feel that, before we go to the physics, is to borrow someone else's senses. To step, for a moment, into the body of an animal that filters the world differently than you do. Because if the world your senses build is the real one, the true one, the complete one, then every other creature should be living in a fainter, poorer version of the same world. They're not. They're living in different worlds. Worlds that are, in the ways that matter to them, richer than yours. And once you see that there are thousands of these worlds, all laid over the same physical space, all real, all partial, the idea that yours is, the world falls apart in your hands. Let me show you what you're missing. Let me show you the other realities happening in this room. There's a word for this, and once you have it, you can't unsee it. A century ago, a Baltic biologist named Jakob von Uexküll was watching a tick, a small, nearly blind, nearly deaf creature that waits on a blade of grass, sometimes for years, for a mammal to walk by. And he asked a question nobody had really asked. What is the tick's world? Not the world, the tick's world. And he realized the tick lives inside an almost unimaginably simple reality. It has essentially three signals. The smell of butyric acid, which every mammal's skin gives off, the warmth of a body, and the touch of hair. That's close to the whole of the tick's universe. No colour, no sound, no faces, no sky, no distance. Three signs, and everything else, the entire blazing world you and I live in, simply does not exist for the tick. It's not that the tick sees a dim version of our world. Our world is not in there at all. Uexküll gave this its name, the Umwelt. Your Umwelt is the world as your particular senses build it, the sliver of reality your body is tuned to, mistaken from the inside for everything there is. The tick has an Umwelt. You have an Umwelt. And here is the quiet blade of the idea. There is no creature anywhere with access to the whole. There is no animal that sees reality plain. Every living thing is sealed inside its own translation, certain it's looking at the world, and every one of them is looking at a different slice. The tick isn't wrong about the world, it's just living in three notes of a song with no end. So let's walk through a few of the other worlds happening in this room, right now, on top of yours, because nothing dismantles the feeling that your senses show you reality faster than standing, for a moment, inside a body that shows you a different one. Start with the animal asleep at the foot of someone's bed, the dog. Picture it lying there, maybe there's one near you right now. Here's a question worth actually stopping on. What do you think the world looks like to that dog? Not a black and white version of your world. Not a blurrier one. Ask yourself honestly what it would be like to be in there, behind those eyes and that nose, and then let me tell you, because the real answer is stranger than anything you'd guess. You think you and your dog live in the same house. You don't. You share a floor plan and almost nothing else. Where your world is built out of sight, the dog's is built out of smell, and not smell the way you have it. A faint background thing, but smell as the primary sense, the way vision is for you, cranked to a resolution you cannot imagine. A dog's nose has been estimated to be tens of thousands of times more sensitive than yours, some breeds far more. But sensitivity isn't the mind-bending part. This is, for a dog, smell is a sense of time. Walk into a room, and you see it as it is. Now, a single frozen present. The dog walks in and smells it as a history. The fading scent of the person who left an hour ago, weaker, so older. The fresh scent of the one still here, stronger, so now. A trail across the floor tells the dog not just who passed, but in what order and how long ago. The whole timeline laid out in the air like text on a page. A dog rounding a corner can smell what is coming before it arrives, smell around the corner into the near future, and, in the fading trails, smell into the past. Your dog is not living in a poorer version of your world. Your dog is living in a fourth dimension you're locked out of. It is smelling time, and it's doing it lying at your feet while you read the present tense and think that's all there is. And before you feel too far above the dog, you have a ghost of this power yourself, and you felt it. A smell, out of nowhere, that drops you 30 years into the past. A particular soap, cut grass, a kitchen, someone's coat. And for half a second you are there, wholly, before you've even named it. That's not sentiment. Smell is the one sense wired almost directly into the oldest, deepest memory parts of your brain, bypassing the machinery the other senses have to root through. It's why scent hits before thought, why it can undo you faster than a photograph. You carry a faint, ancient version of the dog's time sense. A channel where the smell of a thing and the whole lost world around it are stored together, waiting. The dog lives there all day. You visit, once in a while, ambushed, and it can bring tears before you know why. Now go to the window and put a bird outside it, an ordinary bird. You have 3 kinds of colour detector in your eye. 3. Tuned to roughly red, green, and blue. And every colour you have ever seen is your brain mixing those 3. Millions of shades from 3 primaries. It feels like a lot. It feels like all of them. Many birds have 4 kinds of colour detector. The 4th is tuned to ultraviolet, the light beyond violet that your eyes simply cannot register. And that 4th channel does not just add a colour, it multiplies the whole space. If 3 primaries give you millions of colours, 4 give a bird a range you cannot count and cannot picture. Colours that are, to you, not dim, not far away, but unimaginable. In the strict sense, there is no image of them your brain can form, because you lack the hardware to build one, and they are everywhere. Flowers have ultraviolet patterns, runways and targets painted on them, invisible to you, blazing to a bee or a bird, guiding pollinators to the centre. Many birds that look identical to us, male and female the same drab brown, are wearing wildly different ultraviolet plumage, signalling, displaying, shouting in a colour you'll never see. On feathers you've stared at your whole life and called plain. There are messages written all over the natural world in a colour that does not exist for you and never will. You are standing in an art gallery and half the paintings are simply invisible and you had no idea the walls weren't bare. And the creatures reading those invisible paintings are using them to run their whole lives. A bee sees the ultraviolet runway on a flower and lands exactly where the nectar is. It navigates by a pattern in the polarized light of the blue sky. That is, to you, just sky, featureless and plain. It comes home and dances the location of that flower to the hive in a code of angles and waggles. None of that world is dim or partial to the bee. It is vivid, urgent, complete, a full and busy reality built almost entirely out of signals you cannot detect at all, playing out in the same garden you've stood in 100 times and seen as quiet and still. The bee is not living in less than you. In its own dimensions, it is living in more. Now for the animal that breaks the pattern, because the honest version of its story is stranger than the myth. If a bird's 4 colour receptors open a world you can't imagine, then meet the mantis shrimp, a small, violent, dual-coloured crustacean on tropical reefs, and prepare to have your expectations inverted. You have 3 types of colour receptor. Birds have 4. The mantis shrimp has 12. Some counts run to 16, 12 to 16 channels of colour, where you have 3. By the logic we've been building all night, this creature should live inside a colour world so vast and fine that ours would look like a child's crayon box beside it. It should see the reef in a billion shades. It became internet famous for exactly this, the animal that sees colours we can't dream of. Except it doesn't, and this is the beautiful, humbling twist. When researchers actually tested what the mantis shrimp can discriminate, trained it, ran the experiments, they found it is surprisingly bad at telling similar colours apart. Far worse than you. Where your brain takes 3 receptors and does exquisite comparisons between them to split the spectrum into millions of fine shades, the mantis shrimp seems to do almost none of that downstream comparison. It appears to use its 12 receptors more like a bank of 12 simple detectors, this channel or that channel lit up, reading colour in fast, crude, direct strokes, rather than blending them into a rich palette. Nobody is certain why, but the leading idea is speed. A fast, simple, hardwired colour, red that a lightning-quick predator can act on in an instant, without the slow luxury of a brain that sits and mixes. Sit with what that does to the whole picture. More receptors did not mean a richer world. The mantis shrimp has 4 times your hardware and, in the way that matters, a simpler colour experience, which tells you something we're going to need at the very end of tonight. A sense is not a pipe that pours in more reality the wider you make it. A sense is a strategy, a particular bargain struck between a body and its life, trading richness for speed, or range for precision, or detail for survival. There is no such thing as senses that just show you more of the truth. There are only different deals. Yours is one deal, the shrimp's is another. Neither is closer to some perfect, complete seeing, because there is no perfect, complete seeing to be close to. Hold that. It's the hinge the whole video turns on. And it demolishes the fantasy this whole genre runs on, the idea that somewhere out there is a true way to perceive, a full-resolution reality feed, and your senses are just a low-quality version of it that you'd love to upgrade. There is no full-resolution feed. There is no master version of reality that some lucky creature gets to see complete. Every seeing is a sampling. Every sampling is a trade. Every trade leaves something out by design, because leaving things out is what perceiving is. The mantis shrimp, with its 16 channels, is not one step closer to the truth than you are. It just made different bets with its budget. Upgrade your eyes to a bird's, a mantis shrimp's, a shark's, all of them at once, and you would not arrive at reality. You'd arrive at another slice, a bigger slice, still a slice, still a translation, still a filter, with its own vast dark pressing in on all sides. The filter doesn't go away when you make it wider. The filter is not a defect in the seeing. The filter is the seeing, and it keeps going, past colour, past smell, into senses you don't have a word for because you've never had them. A shark, and many fish, can feel the electric fields that every living body gives off. Your muscles, your beating heart, leak faint electricity into the water around you, and a shark reads it, that hunts by it, senses the invisible electrical shimmer of a hidden creature the way you'd spot a lamp in the dark. That's a sense, a whole channel of reality, closed to you. And it's precise past belief. A shark can reportedly detect an electric field so faint it's like sensing a battery connected across an entire ocean, which is why a shark can find a fish holding perfectly still, buried in sand, hidden from every other sense. The fish cannot stop its own heart from beating, and the beating heart is a beacon in a band the shark can see, and you cannot. A bird migrating 3,000 miles to a place it has never been appears to see or feel the Earth's magnetic field, to have a living compass built into its perception, an awareness of a planetary force that is passing through your body at this exact moment and that you cannot feel at all. A pit viper sees the heat of a mouse as an image, a thermal picture painted over its ordinary vision. Infrared, the very light pouring invisibly off your warm body, rendered as sight. A bat throws sound into the dark and listens to the echo and builds from it a detailed, moving, three-dimensional picture of a pitch-black room, seeing with sound in a darkness that to you would be total blindness. And here's a question worth holding, because it goes to the heart of tonight. What is it actually like to be that bat? Not what does the bat do, what does its world feel like from the inside, this world made of returning echoes. And the honest answer is that you cannot know and cannot even really imagine. You can learn everything about how the bat's sonar works, map every neuron, and still not have the faintest idea what it is like to perceive a room by sound the way the bat does, because your imagination can only build from your own senses, and you have nothing to build a sound picture out of. The bat's Umwelt is not just hidden from your senses, it's hidden from your imagination, sealed off by the same walls, which means every one of these other worlds is doubly locked. You can't perceive them, and you can't even picture what perceiving them would be like. You are alone inside your own kind of experience, and so is the bat, and so is everything that has ever lived. Not one creature has ever felt another one's world, and it goes on, gentler and stranger. An elephant, standing still, talks to another elephant miles away, in sound so low you would never hear it. Deep infrasonic rumbles that roll through the ground itself, felt through the feet as much as heard, a whole slow conversation happening beneath the floor of your hearing. Whales do it across entire oceans, their lowest calls carrying for hundreds of miles through water, a planetary telephone line you're deaf to. The star-nosed mole, nearly blind, sees its world through a fleshy star of 22 feelers, touching its way through the dark with a sense of touch so fast and so fine it can identify and eat prey in less time than you can react to anything at all. A creature that essentially sees with touch at a speed your senses can't follow. And the octopus may not even keep its seeing in its eyes. Its skin contains the same light-sensing molecules its eyes use, and there is real evidence it can sense light with its whole body, tasting the world through its arms, possibly perceiving in a way so distributed and alien that we truly do not know what it is like to be one, and may never. And some creatures don't just sense the world, they sense the planet, using channels tuned to forces you'd never think of as things a body could feel. A salmon, after years in the open ocean, finds the one river it was born in, by smell, following a chemical memory of its home stream across thousands of miles of water, a scent map of an entire coastline held in its head. A dung beetle, of all things, rolls its ball in a straight line at night by navigating off the faint band of the Milky Way. It steers by the galaxy, using starlight so dim you'd call the sky empty. Sea turtles appear to read the Earth's magnetic field like a global grid, returning across an entire ocean to the exact beach where they hatched. These aren't tricks. They're senses, real perceptual channels tuned to smell maps and star fields and planetary magnetism, entire navigational worlds, overlaid on the same Earth you walk around on, with a phone in your hand because you cannot feel any of it. Stack them up: electric fields, magnetic fields, infrared, ultraviolet, sound as vision, smell as time, touch as sight, infrasound rolling through the Earth. A body that sees with its skin. Every one of these is a real, physical feature of the world right here, right now, in the space you're lying in, and every one of them is deleted, completely, from the world your senses hand you. Not dimmed, deleted. You have no dial in your head that even goes to those stations. The animals aren't gifted with extra magic, they're just tuned to channels you were built to ignore. So here is where the ground first gives way beneath you. Add every animal's umwelt together, all the colours, fields, frequencies, and dimensions that some living thing somewhere can sense, and you get a world of staggering, overflowing richness, layered dozens deep over every square inch of the planet. And the world you live in is one thin channel out of all of them. Not the true one, not the complete one. One. Yours feels like the whole of reality, for the exact same reason the tick's three signals feel like the whole of reality to the tick. Because it's all you've ever been given, and the filter leaves no edges. And it isn't only the small and the faint you're missing, the filter hides the enormous and the slow just as completely. Your senses are tuned to a middle world, things roughly your size, moving at roughly your speed, lasting roughly your kind of time. Anything much bigger or much slower simply doesn't register as happening. You cannot feel the Earth turning, though it's flinging you around its axis at hundreds of miles an hour this second. You cannot feel it racing around the sun at tens of thousands of miles an hour, or the whole solar system tearing through the galaxy faster still. You feel, instead, perfectly still, in a perfectly still room. You cannot see a mountain rise or a continent drift, though they move at the pace your fingernails grow. You live in a thin slice of size, and a thin slice of speed, and a thin slice of time, and everything outside it, the racing planet, the crawling mountain, the slow chemical thoughts of a tree. But you experience a stillness. The world is not still. You are simply tuned to miss the ways it moves. But notice, every world I just described is still built from the same physical stuff: light, fields, molecules, pressure. The animals are catching more of the physical world than you are, but it's still the physical world. We haven't left it yet. We've just proven your slice of it is tiny. If you're still here, following this descent past the animals and toward whatever waits at the bottom, that's the whole reason this channel exists. And if these late night walks are your kind of thing, the subscribe button keeps them coming. Now let's take the step that leaves the physical world your senses know behind. Because underneath all of these worlds, yours, the dogs, the birds, the sharks, underneath every umwelt any creature has ever had, there is the layer that none of them can sense. Not the dog, not the bird, not the shark, not you. The layer physics had to build machines and mathematics to reach, because no body, no eye, no nose evolved anywhere on Earth can touch it. It's the reality your filter works hardest to hide, and it's what everything else in this video has been walking toward. This is where solidity dies. Knock on the nearest hard surface. Go on, knuckles on the table, the wall, the floor. Solid, isn't it? About as solid and certain as anything gets. Nothing in your experience feels more obviously, undeniably real than a solid object you can wrap with your knuckles. Now let me tell you what's actually under there. Take that surface, the solid, undeniable desk. Go inside it. Down past the grain of the wood, past the cells, down to a single atom of it. And here is the first shock. The one that's been known for a century and still hasn't sunk into how anyone actually feels the world. The atom is almost entirely empty. Picture the nucleus, the dense core, where nearly all the atom's matter lives, as a marble. On that scale, the electrons are specks drifting at the edge of a space that, in some tellings, stretches out like a cathedral or a sports stadium around that single central marble. Between the marble and the specks, nothing. Not air. Air is made of atoms too, just as empty. Nothing. Empty space. The atom is, by volume, something like 99.9999% void. And everything you have ever called solid, this desk, this floor, your own hand, your own body, is made of these almost empty atoms, stacked together. Let me make that marble in a stadium real, because the numbers are hard to feel. If the nucleus of an atom were the size of a marble sitting on the center line of a football stadium, the electrons would be like a few specks of dust drifting somewhere up in the highest seats, and everything between, the entire bowl of the stadium, would be empty. That is the true ratio of stuff to space inside every atom of you. Now go the other way, into how much is crammed into that marble. Nearly all of an atom's mass lives in that impossibly tiny nucleus, which means matter, real matter, is almost unbelievably dense when you strip the emptiness away. If you could gather a single teaspoon of pure nuclear material, just the marbles, packed together with no space between, it would weigh something on the order of 1 billion tons. A teaspoon weighing more than a mountain. That is what solid is actually made of. Unthinkable density, scattered so thinly through so much emptiness that you and the desk and the whole world get to feel soft and continuous and real. So run the numbers on yourself. If you could remove the empty space from every atom in every human being alive, collapse all 8 billion of us down to just the actual matter, the marbles with the void squeezed out, the entire human species would fit, by some estimates, into the volume of a sugar cube. Everything else that you are, all the rest of the space you take up, is emptiness held apart. You are a scaffolding of almost nothing, arranged to feel like something, and yet the desk is solid. Your hand doesn't pass through it. 8 billion people in a sugar cube worth of actual matter spread out across all that void, and still it holds you up, still it stops your hand, still it feels utterly, unarguably solid. Why? You already know the answer, because we started there. It's not the matter that stops your hand. It's the force, the electromagnetic repulsion between the electron clouds, the same refusal we met at your fingertip in the very first minutes of tonight. Solidity was never a property of stuff. There is barely any stuff. Solidity is a property of forces, of fields pushing back, of energy holding emptiness in a rigid shape. The desk is solid, the way a magnetic field is solid. When you try to push two magnets together, you feel a wall, and there's nothing there but force. Your entire solid world, every hard edge you've ever leaned on, is fields holding void apart, and your senses took that, a shape of pushing energy around a scaffold of almost nothing, and handed you back a solid brown desk, the single most useful lie your body has ever told you. And there's an even deeper rule underneath. one that belongs to the quantum world we're about to enter. And it's the strangest guarantee in physics. It isn't only that, like charges repel, there is a separate law that forbids the tiny building blocks of matter from ever piling into the exact same state, a hard rule of the quantum world that keeps them stacked apart, refusing to merge no matter how hard you press. Without that rule, the emptiness inside every atom would collapse. Matter would fold in on itself, and there would be no solid, anything, anywhere. You can see what that law looks like when it's overwhelmed by staring at a dead star. When a giant star runs out of fuel and its core crushes inward, it can pack matter so densely that a spoonful weighs as much as a mountain. The emptiness squeezed almost entirely out, held up at the last only by that stubborn quantum refusal to share a state. That is the same rule holding your desk together right now, holding your own hand in its shape, keeping you from collapsing into a speck. Solidity, in the end, is not stuff and not even only force. It's a deep quantum rule that says, no two of us here, in the same place, in the same way, written into the bottom of reality and saving your life every second by keeping the emptiness open. But even the marble and the specks is a lie, a gentler, more old-fashioned lie, and I have to take it from you too, because it's the last comfortable picture standing between you and the bottom. There is no marble, there are no specks, there are no tiny balls at all. Here is the thing your senses hid most completely of all, the thing they were, in a sense, built to hide. At the deepest level we can currently reach, the world is not made of things. When you picture an electron, you picture a tiny dot, a little ball, a grain of matter. Very small. Everyone does. It's almost impossible not to. But that picture is wrong, and not wrong in a small way. The electron is not a dot of stuff sitting at a place. In quantum physics, the electron, and every other so-called particle, is better understood as an excitation in a field that fills all of space. Reality, at the bottom, seems to be made not of little objects, but of a handful of these fields, spread everywhere, overlapping, filling the entire universe. And what we call a particle is a ripple, a knot, a vibration in one of them. The electron isn't a thing in space. It's a trembling of space, or of a field lying across all of space, which for our purposes is almost the same vertigo. And where is it, this ripple? That's the next thing to let go of. Before you look, an electron does not have a single, definite location. It isn't at a spot, waiting for you to find it. It exists as a spread of possibility, a cloud, a smear, a wave of where it might be, truly, not just because you haven't checked. It is, in a real sense, in many places at once, described by a wave until something interacts with it and forces the question. Only then does it show up somewhere specific. The tiny solar system atom you were taught in school, the nucleus with little electrons whizzing round it on tracks, is not what's there. What's there is a nucleus wrapped in a cloud of maybe, a haze of probability, a fog of could be here, could be there, with no fact of the matter about where the electron is until the world asks. And this isn't some exotic property of far-off laboratory particles. It is what you are made of, right now, top to bottom. Every atom in your hand is one of these, a dense fleck of almost nothing, wrapped in a cloud of maybe, humming with fields, radiating and absorbing invisible light. The chair you're in, the air you're breathing, the eyes you're reading with, all of it. The same placeless, shimmering, field-woven, not quite stuff. There is no special solid material that you and the desk are made of, and the quantum weirdness is made of something else. It's all the one thing. You are not a solid object in a solid world, briefly learning about a strange quantum realm somewhere underneath. You are the strange quantum realm, folded up into a shape complicated enough to wonder about itself. The vertigo isn't that reality is quantum. The vertigo is that you are, and have been the whole time, and your senses have spent every second of your life making sure it never once felt that way. And you aren't even the same fields for long. The atoms you're made of are constantly being swapped out. You breathe them in, eat them, shed them, replace them. The particular atoms making up your hand this year are, in large part, not the ones that made it a few years ago. So you are not even a fixed lump of matter. The matter is pouring through you, in one side and out the other, replaced piece by piece, while the arrangement holds. What lasts is the shape, the ongoing organization, the recipe, not the ingredients, which are on their way through you and gone. And your senses, kindly, show you a solid, continuous, unchanging you in the mirror, and never once mention that the material is flowing through you constantly. That almost nothing you were built from a decade ago is still here, and that what endures is not the stuff at all, but the form the stuff is passing through. Stop and feel the whole distance you've just come down, because this is the bottom of it. You started with your hand on a solid surface. The surface became a force, not a touch. The stuff behind the force became mostly empty space. The empty space's tiny contents became not balls, but ripples in fields. And the ripples, when you look for them, are not even in one place. They're a smear of possibility that only becomes definite when something interacts with it. That is what's actually under your hand right now, not a desk. A shimmering, humming, mostly empty lattice of fields, full of ripples that don't have locations, held in a shape by forces, radiating a spectrum of light you can't see, and your senses took all of that and, in a fraction of a second, without asking, handed you, smooth, brown, solid, cool, there. Have you ever gone quiet in front of a fire, sat and stared into it longer than you meant to, watching it move? Here's what you are actually looking at under the filter. Not orange flame. You were looking at trillions of atoms tearing apart and recombining, dumping their stored energy as photons. Particles of light flinging themselves out of a churning field at the speed of light, most of them at wavelengths your eyes can't even catch, pouring invisible heat onto your face, while your eyes grabbed the thin, visible sliver and painted it orange, flickering, warm. The warmth on your cheek, infrared light you can't see, landing on skin that reads it as temperature. The crackle, pressure waves your ear rebuilds as sound. The whole hypnotic, ancient comfort of a fire is your filter taking one of the most violent processes in ordinary nature. Matter unbinding, energy screaming off as radiation across a spectrum you're mostly blind to, and rendering it as something so soft and safe and beautiful that human beings have sat and stared into it, soothed, for 100,000 years. That is the filter at its kindest. And you never suspected a thing. That's the filter. Now you can see the full size of what it does. It doesn't just narrow the world. It takes a reality with no color, no solidity, no fixed objects, no definite locations. A reality made of overlapping fields of pure possibility. And it renders it, for you, as a warm room full of solid, coloured, ordinary things sitting still in their places. It is the greatest act of translation in the known universe, and your brain performs it continuously, effortlessly, and for free, and has never once let you glimpse the original. Which raises the question that has been sitting under this whole video, the one we have to face before I can bring you home. If the filter hides all of that, if what's really out there is this humming, placeless, colorless quantum layer, then wouldn't it be better to see reality raw? To get the filter off and finally look at the world as it truly is? I want to answer that honestly, and the honest answer is going to turn this entire video around. So here we are, at the very bottom, as deep as tonight goes, and the wish arrives on its own, the way it always does. Let me guess what you're feeling right about now, some version of, then take it off me. If all of this is hidden, if the real world is right there under the illusion, then strip the filter away and let me see it. Let me see reality as it actually is, raw, with nothing in the way. Be honest, some part of you has wanted exactly that for the last hour, haven't you? Here's why you can't have it. And why, once you see the reason, you won't want it. I felt that wish. It's the honest engine under every video like this one. And I have to tell you, gently, that it doesn't survive contact with what we just learned. Not because it's forbidden, because it doesn't mean anything. There is no reality as it actually is, waiting to be seen, not in the way the wish imagines it. And I want to show you why, because this is the exact place where the woo channels go wrong, and where I think something far more interesting is true. Start with the smallest problem and work up. Suppose I granted the wish literally. I stripped away your senses and dropped your bare awareness into the quantum layer, the fields and the ripples and the clouds of probability. What would you see? Nothing. Not darkness, nothing. Seeing is a thing eyes do with a slice of the spectrum. Down there is no light to see with, no surfaces to see, no colour, because colour was always yours, no sound, no solidity, no here and no there in the way you mean them. The raw layer isn't a hidden landscape you could gaze at if only the filter came off. It's not a landscape at all. It has none of the features that the word looks requires. Asking what reality looks like without senses is a little like asking what a song sounds like with no air and no ears. The question smuggles in the very thing it claims to remove. There's a second trap hiding in the wish too, the fantasy that even with your senses, you might somehow catch reality live in the raw present if you just paid enough attention. You can't, and you never have. Everything you perceive is already old. It takes time for signals to travel, and time for your brain to build them into an experience, and the building alone takes a good fraction of a second. So the now you are living in was assembled from information that is already past by the time you feel it. You are always, every waking moment, watching a slightly old recording of the world, rendered so smoothly that it feels like this instant. There is no version of you that ever touches the live present. Even inside the filter, you live a heartbeat behind. In a now, your brain finished building a moment ago. The rawness you're chasing was never available from any seat. To be a mind at all is to arrive a little late, to a show already translated. Now the deeper problem, and this is the one that turns the whole video. Every reality we've talked about tonight, yours, the dogs, the birds, the ticks, is reality from a point of view. Reality for something. The dog's world is real. It's reality as a dog's needs carve it up. Your world is real. It's reality as a human body carves it up. Even the physicist's picture, the fields, the probabilities, is reality as captured by a specific set of instruments and a specific mathematics built by human minds for human purposes. There is no view from nowhere. There is no way to see reality that isn't a way. A particular sampling, a particular carving, a particular translation made by a particular kind of thing for a particular kind of life. Reality with no perspective on it isn't the deepest truth hiding behind all the perspectives. It's the one thing that can never be experienced by anyone, because experience is a perspective. To exist as a creature at all is to stand somewhere, and to stand somewhere is to see a slice. So the filter was never a wall between you and the real world, with the real world sitting on the far side waiting. The filter is the thing that makes there be a world for you at all. Take it away and you don't get reality plus. You get nothing for no one. The tick isn't tragically cut off from the full symphony. The tick's 3 notes are the tick's world, complete. The only kind of world a tick could ever have. And your world, coloured, solid, warm, full of faces and music and the weight of a blanket, is complete in exactly the same way. Not a poor copy of the real thing. A real thing. Your real thing. Think of it like a map. A map is not a lie just because it isn't the territory. A map that showed everything, every blade of grass, every atom, at full size, would not be a better map. It would be useless. It would just be the world again, and you'd be as lost in it as you were before. A map is good precisely because it throws almost everything away and keeps the few lines you need to find your way home. Your senses are the map, and the mistake the whole internet makes with this topic, rip off the map and see the true territory, misunderstands what a map is for. There is no version of the territory that is also a view. The territory doesn't have a look. Only maps have looks, because a look is what a map is. Asking to see the territory raw, with no map, is asking to see with no seeing. The wish eats itself. And once you stop mourning the filter, you can finally ask the beautiful question about it. Why this one? Of all the possible slices, all the channels a creature could be tuned to, why did evolution build you to catch this exact band and no other? Why do you see the fruit and the face, but not the radio pouring through the room? Why do you feel the floor is solid when it's mostly empty space? Stop and really ask it, because the answer is the whole reason you're here to wonder about it at all. The answer is wonderful once you see it. Your filter is not random, and it's not a limitation someone imposed on you. It's a solution. Millions of years of the world sculpting a creature to notice exactly the things a warm, medium-sized, slow-living animal needs to notice to survive, find food, avoid death, and love its offspring long enough to raise them. You see the slice of light that bounces off the objects at your scale, the fruit, the face, the cliff edge, the predator, because that's the slice that keeps a body like yours alive. You don't see radio because nothing your ancestors needed to survive was written in radio. You feel solidity instead of fields because a creature that could walk through walls would fall through the floor. You experience the placeless quantum layer as a stable room full of solid objects in fixed places because you need to catch the cup before it hits the ground, and a shimmering lattice of probabilistic fields will not help you catch the cup. The filter is not blocking the useful truth. The filter is the useful truth, the exact translation of an unlivable reality into a livable one, tuned over deep time to the life you actually have to lead. And consider why it has to throw almost everything away, why a filter isn't just convenient but necessary. Reality is drowning in information. Every square inch of you is being hit, every instant, by more signal than any brain could ever process. The full spectrum of light, every pressure wave, every field, the quantum jitter of every atom. A creature that tried to take it all in wouldn't be enlightened. It would be paralyzed, frozen, overwhelmed, dead in a week, buried under an avalanche of data, none of which it could act on fast enough. Attention is not a weakness of the mind, it is the mind's entire job. To perceive is to discard, to throw away the 99.9% that doesn't matter for staying alive, and hold up the sliver that does. Every animal that ever lived succeeded exactly to the degree that its filter threw away the right things. Your filter is the winner of a 4 billion-year contest in ignoring things well. That's not a bug in your window on the world. That's the most refined survival technology on the planet, running silently behind your eyes, deciding, brilliantly, constantly, invisibly, what you get to not be overwhelmed by. That's not a prison. That's a home, built to fit you so precisely that you mistook it for the whole of existence. And the reason it fits so well is that it was made by the same reality it's translating. You are not separate from that vast field of reality, sealed off behind glass. You are made of it. You are a particularly clever, warm, temporary arrangement of those very fields. A knot in the fabric that folded up and started building a small, survivable model of the rest. The filter isn't reality lying to you. It's reality in one small place, learning to picture itself in a form simple enough to live in. And that changes what the filter even is. It's easy to picture your senses as a wall between you in here and reality out there, two separate things, with a barrier between. But there is no you in here separate from reality out there. You are not a soul peering out through 5 slits at a world you're locked away from. You are a piece of that world, arranged by that world, tuned by that world, doing the one thing this particular arrangement of the world does, building a livable picture of itself. The filter isn't between you and reality. The filter is one of the things reality is doing, right here in the warm, complicated place that is you. When you look at the room, that's not you spying on reality from behind glass. That's reality looking at itself through one of its own small folded corners, and the corner is you. There was never a wall. There was only reality, and a place inside it soft enough to have a point of view. And here is the part that saves this from being merely comforting, because I don't want to leave you only comforted. I want to leave you with the actual, specific human triumph buried in all of this. You cannot experience the raw world, but you can know it. That's the strange gift our species stumbled into. No other animal on Earth has ever found out about the parts of reality it can't sense. The tick will never learn about colour. The dog will never suspect there's a 4th kind of colour it's missing. But you, a creature just as sealed inside its umwelt as any of them, figured out that the spectrum extends past your vision, and then you built eyes for the parts you can't see. And it's worth slowing down on how we did it, because it's one of the great unsung stories of our species, and almost nobody tells it as one. For nearly all of human history, we were exactly as trapped as the tick. Worse, in a way, because we didn't know we were trapped. The visible world was simply the world. Then, a little over 400 years ago, someone pointed a crude tube of glass lenses at the night sky, and the human umwelt cracked open for the first time. Suddenly there were moons around Jupiter that no eye had ever seen, craters on the moon, stars beyond stars, a universe that had been there the whole time, pouring its light into eyes too weak to resolve it. That was the first note slid under the door. We had reached past the edge of our own vision, not with a better eye, but with a made thing. And then it accelerated, and every step was the same move. Find a band of reality you're blind to, and build a body part for it out of metal and glass and math. And each discovery has a moment, a person, a day the human world got bigger. In the year 1800, an astronomer was measuring the temperature of different colours of sunlight, split through a prism, and noticed the thermometer climbing highest past the red end, where there was no visible colour at all, heat with no light, a kind of light his eyes couldn't see. He'd found infrared, the first proof, ever, that the spectrum ran past the edge of human vision. Within a year, someone testing the other end found invisible rays past violet 2, ultraviolet, announcing itself by darkening a chemical that no visible light had touched. 200 years ago, in two ordinary experiments, our species learned that the rainbow was not the whole of light, that it kept going, in both directions, into darkness we could measure but never see. And decades later, a young physicist generated and detected radio waves in his laboratory, proving that this same invisible light stretched into a vast region so wide it now carries every broadcast on Earth, and reportedly shrugged that his discovery was of no use whatsoever. It was only the nervous system of the modern world. We learned the spectrum went past red, so we built infrared sensors and looked at the heat of things in the dark. We learned it went past violet, so we built ultraviolet cameras and finally saw the patterns on the flowers the bees had been reading all along. We turned radio telescopes on the sky and heard the universe roar in wavelengths our eyes will never touch. The faint hiss left over from the birth of everything, still falling on us, that our bodies register as nothing at all. We built machines that feel the magnetic field the robin feels, machines that hear the infrasound the elephant speaks in and the ultrasound the bat hunts with, machines that detect the electric fields the shark hunts by. One by one, we grew artificial senses for every channel evolution left us blind to. And then we built the strangest instruments of all, the ones that reached down past all the senses, into the layer no body could ever touch. Particle detectors buried under mountains, machines that make the placeless quantum world leave tracks we can photograph and count. Think about what that actually means. You are still behind the glass, you always will be. Your bare experience will forever be the one warm room your senses built. But you have learned to slide notes under the door and read the notes that come back. You cannot see ultraviolet, but you know it's there. You can measure it, you can photograph it, you can reason about it. You can hold it in your mind, even though you can never hold it in your eye. You have stood inside your tiny sliver of reality and correctly mapped the enormous dark beyond it, a dark you have never once perceived and never will. You are the first kind of thing in the history of this planet that can look at the edges of its own filter from the inside and say, there is more out there than I can feel, and here is its shape and its size and its rules. That is not a small consolation prize for being trapped. That is arguably the most extraordinary thing minds have ever done. You didn't get free of the filter. You did something harder and better. You charted the depths you can't survive in, from inside the one warm room they built you. And there's a quiet miracle folded inside that, the one I want you to carry to sleep. You are the only kind of creature we know of that can be told about its own filter and understand. Every other animal lives and dies certain that its slice is the whole. But you, right now, tonight, have followed this all the way down, and you believe it. Or at least you can feel how it might be true, that the solid room around you is a translation, that the colours are yours, that the quantum strangeness is what you're made of, that there are worlds stacked over this one you'll never enter. No dog can hold that thought. No bird, no bat, no tick. You can. A filtered creature, understanding its own filtering, from the inside, with nothing but the filtered mind the filter gave it, reaching a true conclusion about the very limits it can never step outside. That is either the loneliest thing in the world or the most extraordinary. And I think, honestly, it's the most extraordinary. You are the universe's small, warm way of finding out that it is far more than any one creature can feel, and being at peace with that anyway. Now let's rise back up through it all, slowly, all the way to your hand. You started tonight with your palm flat on a surface, feeling solid contact. You know, now, everything that isn't true about that, There is no contact. Your electrons never touch the desks. There is barely any desk. The atoms are almost all empty space. There are no little particles in that space, only ripples in fields that fill everything. Those ripples have no fixed place until the world asks. They're clouds of maybe. There is no brown, no smoothness, no cool. Those are yours, painted on. Underneath your resting hand is a humming, placeless, colourless lattice of fields and forces and probability. Part of a reality so much larger than your senses that you are blind to all but a finger's width of it, and rise back up through every layer you passed, above that quantum bottom. The animals, the dog reading time in the air, the bird bathing in colours you can't imagine, the shark feeling your heartbeat as electricity, the bee dancing directions in ultraviolet light, all of them living in this same room right now, in worlds laid over yours that you will never enter. Above them, the spectrum you're blind to, the radio and the infrared and the ultraviolet flooding through you, this second, silent, unfelt. Above that, the pressure waves you round down to silence, the molecules you translate into scent, the forces you feel as solid. And at the very top, sitting on all of it, the warm, ordinary, coloured, comfortable world you actually live in. The one your brain builds, continuously, in the dark, out of a trickle of what's really there. And now, feel your hand on the surface again anyway. The warmth, the solidity, the simple, restful fact of a thing that is there, holding you. None of it is a lie. It's a translation, the most faithful translation your body could make of an unlivable truth into a livable one, so that a warm animal could rest its hand on the world and feel held by it. The wonder was never going to be found by tearing the filter off and staring at the raw fields. There's nothing there to stare at, and no one who could stare. The wonder is this, that reality, in one small warm place, folded itself into a creature that could feel a surface and love the person across the table and lie in the dark at the end of a long day and, lying there, understand that the whole solid, coloured, comfortable world is a gift. Its own senses are giving it, moment by moment, for free, without ever being asked. You are not trapped behind your senses. You are held by them. They are not the bars of a cage. They are the shape of the only room in which a life like yours could ever have happened. A small, bright, warm room translated out of a vast and formless dark and given to you to live in. And think, one last time, about everything that had to happen for you to have this room. A reality with no colour taught itself, over 4 billion years, to grow creatures who could see. A reality with no sound learned to build ears. A placeless, humming field of probability folded itself in one small, warm place, into a thing that could feel a blanket and love a face and lie in the dark, wondering what it's all made of. You are not separate from the strangeness at the bottom of tonight. You are the strangeness arranged into a shape that gets to feel warm and safe and home. The filter isn't standing between you and reality. The filter is reality, cupped into a form, gentle enough to hold a life. So rest your hand where it is. Let it be solid. Let the room be a room. You've seen, tonight, everything it's made of and everything it isn't, and it's still the truest home you'll ever have. And here's the last thing, the thing to carry down into sleep with you. All night we've been reaching outward, past the skin, past the spectrum, past the animals, down to the placeless fields at the bottom of everything. But you never had to go anywhere. All of it is already here, in the dark behind your eyes, in the quiet weight of your own hand on the blanket, the whole vast reality you can't sense, and the small warm one you can. They were never two places. You are the seam where they meet, the one spot in all that formless dark that folded itself up and warmed and started to feel. So let the filter do what it has always done. Let it turn the roar of everything into a room you can rest inside. You don't have to hold any of it tonight. Not the fields, not the emptiness, not the enormous, silent world beyond your senses. It will keep turning, with you or without you, and it asks nothing of you now, nothing to reach for, nothing to solve. Just the quiet, honest miracle of being a small, warm place where the universe gets to feel like home. And that is more than enough. Rest here a while,